For as little screen time as Leng gets, it's basically impossible to dissect him without also mentioning many major plot points, plot elements. So only watch if you already play the games or don't mind multiple major plot and character spoilers. Ole! Hopefully my microphone is not quiet like some people have been complaining about. And please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like and subscribe button, and hit the like and subscribe button on PikMonWolf's videos as well. Please and thank you. Oh no, not
Dear God, where do I even start with dissecting this guy?
that email really pissed me off for two reasons. One, it's cringe as hell, but more importantly, I was really interested in hearing news from Thessia. I really did. Thankfully, there's a mod that somewhat fixes that. It adds real evacuations. You scan 3 different areas, and you have to pick a choice between who to rescue, the matriarchs or the orphans, for example, or the mercenaries or the matrix. But unfortunately, that mod does not remove this terrible email. But go ahead, sorry.
I could talk about his plot armor, but let's be honest, there's not too much I can really add there that hasn't already been said a million times. So I suppose I'll start with something simple, his design.
I will, even though he's not going to unfortunately mention them all, I would have happily welcomed them all. I wanted to hear all about his plot armor. I'd love to hear it. PikMonWolf, if you're watching this, please make a sequel to this video talking about all of his plot armor, even if it's already been discussed before, because I love hearing it.
Picking apart that crusty outer shell before digging into the rotten core. I'm not the only one who thinks he looks like greasy, right? And why does his combat armor have built-in coattails?
I hate coattails, I will admit. Back when I was little and forced to attend fiestas, I was asked to wear a tuxedo that had coattails. Those disgusted the hell out of me. I don't want coattails. They look emasculating. But as for the greasy look, to be fair, I think everybody looks greasy. Hell, just check out the average NSFW picture made around 2012 and afterwards of Mass Effect. Everybody looks greasy, like I guess it's supposed to pass off as sweat or something.
And why the backpack straps?
I wondered what those are. Now I know. Thank you.
What's with the face brace? Not only does it look stupid and impractical, it makes it so he pretty much always has the same sort of blank scowl. He's already a plank of wood, BioWare. Why would you also block any facial expressions?
I guess by making him a ninja, even though he's half Chinese, half Russian, they were trying to make him a ninja, thus adopting Japanese culture. But that reminds me of how the average anime, which is made by Japanese like Dragon Ball, everybody seems to be in a permanent scowl, especially Vegeta. Vegeta, come on, drop the renegade for life and try being a paragon for a change.
You can convey so much emotion and personality through expressions alone. Guess he had so little of those to show that they figured it wasn't worth even trying. He genuinely looks like a greasy mall ninja incel.
It's worth repeating that I really wish that we could have had both Solarians on the ship. I really like that guy, but I don't want to sacrifice Morden to get him.
So, actually, I guess props to the design team for capturing his personality perfectly. And speaking of, it certainly is a personality. Pretty much every line of dialogue of his is...
Oh, and there's no reason to bash incels like that. Come on, man. Dating is already hard enough as it is nowadays. Damn, I made a mistake.
He genuinely looks like a greasy mall ninja incel.
Word of advice, never click the 10-second fast forward, rewind, or 30-second fast forward. You're going to screw things up. Use the keyboard, the space bar to play, and click and drag to rewind.
So, actually, I guess props to the design team for capturing his personality perfectly. And speaking of, it certainly is a personality. Pretty much every line of dialogue of his is either a smug, "Ha! I'm winning," or a whiny, "No! I'm losing!" Nothing he says ever adds anything. He just gloats or whines. Mass Effect 2's single mission villains are more fleshed out than this guy who's supposed to be a main antagonist. Like, there's nothing else to say here. That's his personality.
Yeah, Televasir would have made was a more worthy opponent. And now that you brought up Kirill and the Mass Effect 2 one-shot villains in general, I will repeat as I've repeated a million times. I hate how Mass Effect 2 does not allow me to have diplomacy. There are times where I want to show mercy. Televasir, you deserved better. You were a worthy opponent, and you would have made a powerful ally if the game would allow me to not only spare your life, but let you bring you into the third game.
Gloats and he whines. That's it.
To paraphrase Faramir, I wish that their places had been exchanged. I wish that the Solarian was the Spectre that I killed, and Televasir was the ally I got in the third game. Because, honestly, I don't like Solarians in general. Sorry. Yeah.
Also, he doesn't have any goals of his own. What's his motivation for trying to kill the Counselor? The Elusive Man told him to. Why does he steal the Prothean VI? The Elusive Man wants it. Why does he so desperately want to kill Shepard? I don't know, he doesn't like you. We're never given any reason for him to be so committed to his cause. He's just a guy who does what he's told to. He's our enemy because of what the guy giving him orders wants. He has no stake in any of it. However, while these certainly bring him down, they're not the fundamental issue that makes Mass Effect players seethe at his mere mention. The fundamental problem with him is that he is torn between two roles that he's supposed to fill, and they clash in the worst way. The first role is that of a serious antagonist. Kai Leng is supposed to be a major threat to the player, the Darth Vader to the Elusive Man's Palpatine. He steals vital data out from under you on Thessia, and he leads an attack on the Citadel that will kill either the Solarian Counselor, Captain Kirrahe, or Thane. Each of those is a rough loss, and one of them has to occur. He's the final boss of the second-to-last mission in the entire trilogy, and works as the final stand from Cerberus against you, a group that has been around since the first game. He's supposed to be a real threat who genuinely hurts Shepard. Multiple characters treat him as a dangerous individual, with Anderson getting worried at his mention, and Miranda getting killed by him if you don't warn her that he exists. The game tries to...
Seeing Miranda dead like that reminds me, it's too bad that if you warn her about him, not only does she survive her encounter with him, but we never get to see or hear what those preparations she's made are. I think it would have been cool if she shows up in her typical white spandex catsuit, if you didn't warn her. But if you did warn her, she's wearing her black DLC armor from the second game. That would have been cool, I think.
Make him into a rival for Shepard, where they're very evenly matched and skilled. And the other role he fills? A whiny joke enemy who the game makes fun of. When dying, Thane talks about how he's pathetic. The Elusive Man insults him if he fails to kill the Counselor. He runs away because an injured Bailey and single random C-Sec guy are catching up to him. In the final confrontation, Shepard actively makes fun of him, and he responds like a whiny brat. And then there's the fucking email. He sends you this snarky, rude email that genuinely reads like a copy pasta. These clash horribly.
Please tell me what a copy pasta is. I'm not sure what that is. All I know is that this comes off as if it was written by a teenager still in high school trying to sound intimidating. Or a middle schooler, not a high schooler.
His role as a super dangerous threat is undercut by his juvenile attitude and the characters actually acknowledging how foolish he is. And the way he's treated like a joke makes it infuriating when the game goes, "Oh no, this guy is super dangerous and proved too much for Shepard and Miranda." It inadvertently sends the message that this character is a clown, and thus, as somebody he has beaten, you are less than a clown.
I gotta wonder, why does the temple have an abyss? This is not just a basement, this is an abyss. It looks like it goes down for miles, for infinity down there. Why? Why does it have why does it have a basement at all? It looks like it's on ground level, this temple here. That's one thing I don't get. One of many things I don't get. Yeah, and I really do wish the video footage didn't go blurry like that. Feels like a lazy cop-out.
Too much for Shepard and Miranda. It inadvertently sends the message that this character is a clown, and thus, as somebody he has beaten, you are less than a clown. Now, I've not read the books, but I've heard quite a few people mention that in them, Leng is
Maya Brooks. She's hated by most people, but I like her. I always save her life. I always spare her life. I would have placed her under house arrest under my personal custody. She's got nowhere else to go after all, so may as well make her a member of my harem. But yeah, I agree. Players should not be forced to rely on a secondhand source for info about this guy. So I often clash with brown nosers who try to lecture me based on information they got from a secondhand source, like these comics. So yeah, Cerberus's betrayal, for example, came out of nowhere for those of us who only played the game and didn't read those comics.
actually a decent character with good moments. But, and I cannot emphasize this enough, that does not matter. If a series starts as novels, then it's much more justified to have characters come in with existing relationships, and it's okay to base things on storylines that are somewhat brushed over in the game.
That reminds me, I really do wish, and now that I did read some of the backstory, I read it on the wiki. I really wish I could have captured Kai Leng alive and hand delivered him over to Arya T'Loak because, well, not only did he murder her daughter, but I really like Arya as well, and I think she already owes me a lot. So handing over the assassin who murdered her daughter might help me a lot more with her. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Look at The Witcher 3. Dijkstra is a notable secondary character who just pops up out of nowhere like, "Hey Geralt, we know each other. You broke my leg." And Geralt goes, "Yeah, that did happen." This isn't bad because the Witcher games are an adaptation of the books, and having some clunky moments in what is essentially a spin-off to pay more respect to the original is justified. Mass Effect is a video game series first and foremost, and it is the story of Commander Shepard, who is barely even mentioned in the books.
Drew Karpyshyn. I actually wrote an email to him 10 plus years ago asking him what happened, and he wrote me back saying that he and BioWare parted ways on peaceful terms, and he was simply transferred to Texas, and then he left entirely. But I can't help but feel the back of my mind is saying he was lying, and that BioWare really screwed things over between him and BioWare, and of course with the other writers as well, which is why the writing team, all the best writers, were replaced for the third game. And no, I am not including Steve. And yes, I'm still calling him a Steve. Thank you.
You can't bring in a character that both the player and the main protagonist have no connection to, and then expect them to be accepted as a major rival with zero setup. This is not the only time the series tells the player that you need to have looked at the spin-offs to actually know what's going on. 3 is especially guilty of this though, with stuff like Udina replacing Anderson as a counselor pushed into the Codex. Mass Effect 2 isn't free from this problem though. Guess which character in it basically just points to other mediums and says, "If you want to know anything about me, go look at that instead." Yeah, you didn't think you'd get through this video without hearing about how bad Jacob was again, did ya? It's not as bad as Star Wars announcing Palpatine's return in Fortnite or anything like that, but this is still BioWare hurting the integrity of its main series to tie in the books. The game pops Palpatine's return in Fortnite or anything like that.
Gray error is corrected. The day of victory is at hand. The day of revenge. The day of the Sith. Oh, that's some foreshadowing. I can't really tell now.
But this is still BioWare hurting the integrity of its main series to tie in the books. The game pops this character in and goes, "No, he's a badass, trust us," without any in-game evidence to back it up. When you face off with him in cutscenes, he doesn't do anything impressive. They just have the player and their squad mates become totally...
I will rewind it so that the dialogue doesn't go consistent. But this, in my honest opinion, the fight on the temple answers 3 questions. First off, why are we forced to take Liara against our will? She demands to be let on, and Shepard, with his stupid auto dialogue, immediately accepts. That pisses me off because Mass Effect 3 is full of auto dialogue, which robs me of my choice. I would have flat out said no because I need more important people on board with this. And plus, I'm only allowed to bring 2 people with me, and she's going to take up half of that. And she never once expresses any connection to this planet. So for her to suddenly get all emotional for it, even if this is her species' homeworld, it doesn't feel right. It feels completely contrived, shoehorned. But anyway, reason number one, Leng is always going to throw her. And whoever is the other squad mate is going to get, well, Liara thrown at them, at him or her. Question one, why am I forced to bring Liara? The answer is because so that the Space Ninja has somebody to throw, light enough to throw. And second reason, why am I not allowed to have a Krogan squad mate? Because whoever I'm supposed to have here is supposed to be light enough to get knocked over by Amir Asari getting thrown at him. And of course, question number three, why am I not allowed to bring heavy weapons with me? Well, first off, that'd make me be able to go toe to toe against the Reapers, the smaller Reapers at least. I wouldn't need to awaken a worm to go after one Reaper. I could just kill it with heavy weapons. And of course, this guy's stupid gunship. I should be able to just shoot it out of the sky, but nope. We have to make it immortal, and it damages you with light somehow, and a machine gun. But yeah, with heavy weapons, it has no excuse to remain immortal like that. Remain invincible. So yeah. Liara, my love, yeah, that cutscene made me ashamed of you.
No, he's a badass. Trust us.
On one last thing, Liara, since I am forced to take you, whether I like it or not, since that cutscene is guaranteed to have you, why didn't you use your biotics? I can understand other cutscenes not taking your biotics into account because those cutscenes have to account for the possibility that I'm going to have somebody else instead of you. But Liara, babe, you're going to be there. You should have used your biotics.
Without any in-game evidence to back it up. When you face off with him in cutscenes, he doesn't do anything impressive. They just have the player and their squad mates become totally incompetent. And if you don't know about his infamous plot armor, here's a quick summary.
That question bothered me since forever. Yeah, you could do a barrel roll that car, that would knock him completely off, or just tilt it like you say. And earlier, why did Thane wait until he was at point blank range before he even pulled his pistol at all out? He not only pulled his pistol out, which wasted at least 1.5 seconds of precious time for the pistol to unfold itself, and then another second hesitating and shaking your head lightly like you're telling him no. What you should have done was had your pistol already deployed before you ever got there, and you had 3 seconds of precious time that you could have easily blasted his brains all over the floor. But you didn't. You're a professional assassin, and your lung disease is no excuse for that. Yeah, and of course you can move as others have pointed out before, you can easily move the car up and scrape him off the top of the car with one of those bridges there. And of course, earlier we saw him go into that elevator with 4 or 5 phantoms. Well, where are heavy weapons? With a heavy weapon, we could easily blow him and those phantoms up right then and there and end it all. But no, that's another real reason why we're not allowed to take heavy weapons with us. But the brown nosers on Reddit will, of course, defend that decision for one bullshit reason or another. I'm passionate about things I hate and notice and bullshit I notice. Yeah. And where's the Citadel fleet? Just because Udina lowered, quote-unquote, lowered defenses doesn't mean the fleet should be gone. Where the hell's the fleet? All these gunships should be taken out. I know. See, I can't stand people who win victories through luck. You know, we're losing because of bad luck, and he's winning because he's lucky. As you point out correctly, the building's collapsing all around him, but right on you. It's like the difference between Bugs Bunny and SpongeBob. SpongeBob wins because pure luck is on his side. He's always lucky. The bad guys, the so-called bad guys like Plankton, things always go bad for him at the last split second. It's stupid. It's contrived. Whereas Bugs Bunny deserves his victories because he outsmarts his enemy. He actually uses his brain and wins.
Cerberus thanks you for all your hard work.
Oh,
And
drop
when you
dead.
get to the point that you fight him in-game, he is a complete and total joke. I soft-locked my game by killing him too fast. This is a fight that you have to lose. How is it supposed to feel anything other than insulting to see the protagonists lose all their brain cells so they can lose in a cutscene to a character who's one of the easiest enemies in the game? Now, I'm going to hone in on something that at first might seem very petty, but genuinely has a massive impact on the player's response to him as a character. His sword. Now, people who collect swords in modern times and try to appear cool by posing with them are generally considered, well, dorks. This is because a sword cannot compete with a gun. It just can't. In Mass Effect, guns have changed quite a bit.
Bear in mind that that scene in Indiana Jones was supposed to be him using his whip to disarm the swordsman, but Harrison Ford was sick with with food poisoning. He and most of the staff were sick because they were eating local food, and well, they were suffering from it. That's why his face was red and sweaty. He was still ill at the moment, and he told Steve, I can't do this. Can I just whip out my pistol and shoot him? And they tried it, and it worked. It was hilarious, and Steven Spielberg kept it in. It was pretty funny.
Just can't. In Mass Effect, guns have changed quite a bit. They shoot miniature slugs shaped off of a metallic block at super speeds with all kinds of optimizations such as scopes that can slow your perception of time, heat systems that grant pseudo infinite ammo, and add-ons that make your insane technological and biotic power stronger. Guns feel like they have been worked on and improved on non-stop to get to the point they're at in Mass Effect. And Kai Leng comes at you with a fucking sword.
Oh man, I missed it. What'd you say?
They're at in Mass Effect. And Kai Leng comes at
To be fair, he also has a shitty little palm blaster, which fires slowly, which doesn't do much damage, and a shot in a cutscene only once. I think I remember the wiki saying he's also got that electric shockwave thingy, which is like biotic shockwave, but it's electric sparks.
you with a fucking sword. Does this sword have any modifications that would bring it more on par with guns? If a sword is a joke against modern guns, then it would need some insane augmentation
And yeah, you'll have to pause it, but yeah, he just fired it, and that's what the subtitle said.
to stand up against these crazy sci-fi guns, right? It has none. If a sword is a joke against modern guns, then it would need some insane augmentation to stand up against these crazy sci-fi guns, right? It has none. It's just a plain old fucking sword, a sharp metal stick. It's not even a very well made one, because you literally punch it to pieces. Mass Effect has convincingly worked in melee aspects into both the story and gameplay in plenty of circumstances. How does it do this? By having the melee aspects also receive improvements via science fiction elements. Krogan use melee believably because of their massive inherent strength. Biotics use it believably by channeling energy into their hits, and everyone else uses Omni Blades, which are disposable blades that are fabricated in an instant and then superheated. Are these all complete fiction? Yeah, absolutely. But the games do a great job handling them and making them feel believable in the world. So you have massively improved guns and massively improved melee options. But Kai Leng uses a sword that is shown to be nothing more than a piece of metal. They set up a scenario where you outnumber him and outmatch him technologically. So the only way to make it even is to have him outskill you. And the only way they know how to do that is by taking away control of Shepard and making them act like an idiot. But sometimes he randomly does outmatch you technologically when he suddenly pulls out an everything-proof shield like a kid on the playground. This shield comes out of nowhere and it's not even consistent in what it looks like. He randomly does outmatch you technologically.
Yeah, everything proof shields like that, like you said, the kid in the playground. And what a coincidence, because I faced off that kind of opponent back when I was little and playing with sticks, and sticks were either guns or swords, and pine cones were grenades or throwing knives. And there was always going to be that one little kid, either a big brother or a little brother or some stranger kid, who would show up and announce that he is carrying the magic sword that cannot be blocked nor parried, nor deflected. And he's carrying the shield that cannot be overwhelmed nor defeated. It can block everything from spells to throwing knives to arrows to everything. And he's wearing the armor that cannot be penetrated or bypassed or whatever. He is therefore, well, a god, basically, or at least a demigod, and thus the whole game is ruined because we're effectively playing against a cheater, a guy with a god mode activated in the equivalent of a guy playing god mode on a video game now. It's kind of really ruins the fun and feels honestly like a cowardly thing to do.
Technologically, when he suddenly pulls out an everything-proof shield like a kid on the playground. This shield comes out of nowhere, and it's not even consistent in what it looks like. The funny thing is, I don't think this bullshit shield is itself a problem. The issue is the way it's just not acknowledged or explained, and the fact the game acts like he is showing skill by just throwing this thing up.
And to make matters worse, another thing I can't stand about Mass Effect 3 is how it plays by that rules for thee but not for me thing. For example, when he deploys the shield, it blocks everything, bullets, powers, everything, and is unbeatable, seemingly. Of course, we haven't tried throwing all kinds of weapons at it, and unfortunately, there is a guy who posted a video where he is carrying a heavy weapon and it still goes pew pew against the shield, which is kind of funny. But that's besides the point. When you yourself play as an Asari in the multiplayer and you deploy a biotic bubble, which should stop all bullets, it only reduces their damage by a maximum of only 35%, which is nothing at all. The enemy still feels like they're shredding you. Kind of BS.
This shield is very similar to the Shadow Broker's armor. The difference is that feels satisfying to beat because it's made clear how it works, and you exploit its established weakness by entering close combat range and doing an over-the-top badass fistfight. And this is another example of how BioWare made melee feel natural and like a reasonable course of action. Now, many people have talked about fixing Kai Leng, something I've heard plenty of times.
Speaking of TFS references that I mentioned earlier, the moustached Saiyan Prince. I take Kai Leng as a squad mate in Mass Effect 2 over Jacob, because at least in the game he wouldn't be trying to be my friend. Also, Kai Leng is building up. Seriously, it feels like they're trying to Garrus again, but screw him, should up everything up when writing him. Yeah, I remember there was a mod for the original game that replaces Kai Leng with either Ashley or Vermeer, Ashley or Caden, depending on who you left behind on Vermeer. And they're brought back, and honestly, it was a pretty good looking mod, but unfortunately, the guy disappeared, and the mod got deleted, and nobody ever resurrected it for the Legendary Edition. Really sad because it was kind of cool seeing Ashley dressed up as an N7 Slayer that had been recolored to look kind of like the Phantom, and she basically looked like the Queen of the Phantoms. Even though, ironically enough, I never leave Ashley behind, so I would have seen it outside of a video. Still, it would have been cool, but now the video is missing as well, so I can't show you a link to it. So much for the internet being forever.
By you lovely commenters, is to combine him with Jacob Taylor, which is actually a great idea. It's rare that combining two awful characters would make something good, but
and speaking of Dragon Ball, there you go, you mentioned it again.
In the case of Jacob Leng, it would work great. Jacob would be much less boring, and the things that make him so easy to hate would work great on a villain. And it would fix the way Leng just randomly appears and is suddenly supposed to be a rival. It would genuinely turn these two awful characters into one interesting one. But let's say we want to fix Kai Leng with as few changes as possible. How can we fundamentally fix him without fundamentally changing him?
Quick question for you all. What would you think of a ultimate crossover of various science fictional universes? That does not include Star Trek nor Star Wars, because frankly I hate Star Trek, and Star Wars is much more like fantasy than sci-fi, so forget about them. I'm thinking of Halo and Aliens and Predators and Mass Effect and whatever other cool universe you can think of, like maybe Dead Space. I don't know Dead Space, but you guys do. Maybe you think it is compatible or not. I don't know. But I would love to see, what if the counselors came into contact with a predator? What if a predator was hunting on the Citadel and trying to keep its presence secret, but somebody witnessed it? And yeah, just questions that I like spinning around in my head.
The answer is to lean on that bullshit everything-proof shield. In Mass Effect 3, Cerberus is making heavy use of Reaper technology. Technology that is consistently stated to completely outclass the tech of every race. Technology that cannot be recreated because a major component is material from living creatures. Technology that cannot be repurposed because its very presence slowly corrupts your mind and makes you serve the Reapers. Cerberus knows this, and despite their absolute best efforts to avoid the corruption, they are turned into puppets of the Reapers due to their use of this tech. The precedent for them outclassing Shepard technologically is already there, and that arc has its resolution already in the game. Just tie Kai Leng into there. Make it so Kai Leng has an improved but fundamentally identical variant of the Shadow Broker armor. This means it's tech that is already established, but also a new threat due to its improvements. Next, ditch the shitty mail-order Ninjato and give Kai Leng a specialized Omni Blade, something that outpaces what Shepard has, meaning getting into close range with Kai Leng, something necessary to bypass this type of armor, is suicide. Suddenly, instead of Shepard being an idiot unable to deal with Kai Leng, they're simply caught off guard by technology they lack a proper counter to. By doing this, you can keep pretty much everything else identical, but it's so much better. Now, instead of Thane looking like an idiot for rushing towards a guy with a sword while he holds a gun, he has to get in close, but he loses. Now, instead of Miranda arbitrarily dying to him because she wasn't ready, she dies because she lacked a proper countermeasure to his technology. Now there would be actual growth between the fight on Thessia and the final encounter on Chronos Station. Instead of an arbitrary cutscene loss on Thessia, and then winning on Chronos Station because the game finally lets you, you lacked a countermeasure on Thessia, and by the time you face him on Chronos, you've learned how to beat him. This also fixes the clash I mentioned earlier. As it stands, Kai Leng being presented as pathetic and as a threat are at odds, because it's supposed to be his skills that make him a threat. If it's now explicitly his technology that makes him a threat, these are no longer contradictory aspects. If he's carried by advanced tech, he can both be a sad, pathetic man not capable of much, and a genuine threat. He's not really a good character with these changes, sure, but by simply replacing his bullshit plot armor with actual, canon, explainable armor, you have fixed the problems that make him so infuriating.
I couldn't pause because that was beautiful, because I absolutely agree. You just fix it right there, right by yourself. You just throw in a logical explanation and keep it the way it is. I could have forgiven everything. But yeah, speaking of aliens, the xenomorphs, could you imagine if a facehugger got onto an Asari, what the head crest would look like? I imagine the head crest would look like that on a xenomorph after it hatched out. Yep.
People tend to look at stories they don't like and say, oh, I could have written a better story than that. It's so easy. And generally speaking, that isn't true. Writing a story is hard work, and many people who think they could outdo professional writers vastly underestimate just how much they would actually need to consider. They might be able to make something that they themselves would like more, sure, but that doesn't mean they could make something that is considered better than what is a fitter. They might be able to make something that...
You know, unfortunately you are right. I've tried writing my own fanfiction story. It turned out to be complete pig crap. I could not do it. I cannot write engaging dialogue. The dialogue is where I especially suffer at. And unfortunately, at least 80% of all the stories I've tried reading had extremely piss-poor grammar and spelling and spacing. Either they couldn't write English, or they were amateurs who didn't pass school or something. I don't know what was the problem. But on a rare occasion, I do find a fanfiction story that is written superbly. A masterpiece. And it makes the original game look like crap by comparison.
They themselves would like more, sure, but that doesn't mean they could make something that is considered better than what is official. There's a reason that fanfiction generally doesn't have a great reputation. But with Kai Leng, various people on the internet could have genuinely done it better. Go to the comments and tell me how you would have changed Kai Leng to make it better. Even if your answer is as simple as remove him, I guarantee you it will be hard for me to find anything in the comments that is actually worse than what exists in the game. It's sad too, because if Kai Leng was done well, he would have been a highlight. Troy Baker voices him and is so clearly giving it his all, even with the garbage dialogue given to him.
It's hard to believe that that guy, Troy Baker, is the voice of Pagan Min from Far Cry 4, because he was so lovable in Far Cry 4 with that British Hong Kong accent, because he's supposed to be half white, half Chinese, and I loved him. You know, stop, shoot. I told you to not shoot the bus. I told you to stop the bus, not to shoot it. It was pretty funny. And by the way, that right there, that's the elevator I was talking about.
The points in the story where he shows up are a genuinely good place for...
Why are you running? Just throw a grenade in. Fire a rocket. Anything. But no, you're sprinting. Okay, riddle me this. What exactly would you do in the event that you managed to get inside just now? What would you do? Huh? You get close. You run up to him until you're close to your pistol, but all you've done was make yourself vulnerable, and of course you gave him time to raise his shields up. Ay, ay, ay.
Clearly giving it his all, even with the garbage dialogue given to him. The points in the story where he shows up are a genuinely good place for Arrival to fit in. Bringing in a major antagonist from the books could have been super satisfying for those that read them, and the part where you kill him is immensely satisfying as is.
And yeah, earlier you said that he only dies because the game allowed you to. Yeah, that's another thing that pisses me off. There is no feeling of triumph. When I defeated Saren, and Sovereign by extent, I had a sense of triumph. Whenever I defeated one of the bosses in Mass Effect 2, or at least most of the bosses, the ones that I did want to kill, I again felt triumph. You know, in movies and shows and other games where I defeat the main bad guy, I feel triumph because I have defeated a worthy opponent. But Kai Leng, when he drops dead, the only thing that comes to my mind is, quote unquote, it's about damn time. I've been kicking him around, the body around, just because of how long he outstayed his welcome. He was not a worthy opponent at all, not a respectful villain. Tywin Lannister, for example, that's an example of a respectful villain. He's evil, ruthless, he absolutely deserves to die, but I can definitely respect him. I guess it's because he respects me as well. He respects his opponents just like, you know, he demands respect, commands respect, and gives respect. But Kai Leng doesn't do any of those.
That was for Thane, you son of a bitch!
And another thing I hate about this death scene, I'm not allowed to choose my reasons. I honestly didn't really care for Thane. And she either says, that was for Thane, you son of a bitch, or that was for Kirhi, you son of a bitch, or, I don't remember what the circumstances are supposed to be. I suppose if you have them both killed previously, in the previous games, Shepard will mock Kai Leng by saying you have no gunship to help you out. I heard rumors that there is a fourth thing that could be said to Kai Leng, but I don't remember what it was. Personally, I wanted him dead the most because I was looking forward to a rescue. I was looking forward to rescuing the two Asari scientists at the temple. Finding them both dead there kind of robbed me of a thing I was really looking forward to. Yes, I know I have a thing for Asari, but finding them both dead was annoying enough, but finding out that their throats had been slit, I immediately knew this guy was back in town, and he was ruining the fun again. And plus he killed Asari, and nobody's allowed to kill Asari. And, I will admit I did not take the interrupt option at first, because I was hoping to keep the sword as a trophy to mock this guy, but nope, it never appears again, so I may as well break it. It's about time. Good gravy. Do you have any idea how
You
much...
could have had a great plotline here, BioWare. The ingredients were there, but I don't think you could have done it any worse if you were actively trying to. Anyways, thanks for watching, folks. I've got to head to the shop and grab more cereal. Somebody ate all mine.
Try the Great Grains. Great Grains with blueberries. That is delicious cereal. But But yeah, I love your videos because videos like yours relieve the pain. You know, when I find a video ripping apart Mass Effect 3 and its gigantic problems, well, it makes me feel better. And oh yeah, you just had to throw that that last one. Subscribe for more good. You won't open this message. Yeah. You have to rub it in one last time. Anyway, yeah, like and subscribe his video, and please like and subscribe my video and help me spread around. I need to grow. YouTube is clearly hiding my channel, and well, they're basically blocking the sun. They're blocking the sun, so the little seedling that is my channel cannot grow. I need sunlight, people. Help me out. Help me defeat YouTube. Please and thank you. And, well, you have a good night.